At night, when the camp grew silent, he often stepped outside his lodge and looked up at the stars. He believed the stars carried stories from the past, stories of leaders who walked before him, stories of people who had loved, lost, and found meaning in simple moments. He would sit by the small fire and listen to the wind. "Why do I feel alone when I am surrounded by so many?" he once whispered into the night. The wind, of course, did not answer, but it carried his words across the land, as if asking the world to help him find what he was searching for. One morning, the camp was busy. People were preparing for a small gathering to welcome visitors from a nearby valley. Tyan walked through the camp, greeting elders, helping children carry water, and thanking the hunters who had returned with food. Everyone noticed him. They always did. But he noticed something different that day. Near the edge of the camp, by the river, a woman was sitting on a smooth stone. She was not talking to anyone. She was not trying to be seen. She was simply watching the water move around her feet. Her name was Maka, which meant earth. She was known in the camp, but not in the way others were. She did not sing loudly. She did not wear bright decorations. She helped quietly. She listened carefully. When elders spoke, she remembered their words. When children cried, she sat with them until they felt calm again. Tyan had seen her before, but he had never truly noticed her. That morning, something about her stillness caught his attention. He slowed his steps as he walked past the river. He did not speak to her. He simply watched for a moment. Maka picked up a small stone and placed it gently back into the water, as if it mattered where it rested. Tyan felt something shift inside him, like a soft sound in a quiet room. Later that day, visitors arrived. The camp filled with laughter, voices, and movement. Food was shared, stories were told. Some of the visitors brought gifts for Tyan, hoping to make a good impression. One woman from the visiting group stepped forward. She spoke clearly and proudly. She talked about her family, her skills, and her hopes. She looked directly at Tyan, waiting for his answer. Tyan listened, as he always did. He thanked her for her words and her courage. But once again, he said no. The crowd grew quiet. Some people looked down. Others exchanged glances. Maka stood near the back of the group. She did not react. She did not whisper. She simply watched Tyan's face, not with judgment, but with curiosity. That evening, as the visitors rested and the camp settled down, Tyan walked alone toward the river. The sky was painted with deep blue and soft purple. The water reflected the stars like small lights dancing on the surface. He found Maka there again. This time, she was standing, her hands in the water, washing a small cloth. She noticed him, but she did not rush to speak. She simply nodded, showing respect. Tyan hesitated. Then he spoke. "The river is calm tonight," he said. Maka looked at the water, then back at him. "Yes," she replied. "It listens more than it speaks." Tyan was surprised by her words. Most people spoke to him with long sentences, trying to impress or explain. Maka's words were simple, but they stayed in his mind. He nodded slowly. "I think I try to do the same," he said. Maka smiled just a little. "Then you understand the river better than most?" They stood in silence for a moment. It was not uncomfortable. It was peaceful. After a while, Tyan spoke again. "You did not step forward today." Maka shook her head. "I was not called to." Her answer was calm, not shy, not proud. Tyan felt something warm in his chest. "Do you ever feel called to things that do not have words?" Maka thought for a moment. "Every day. she said. The sky, the ground, the people, they all speak, just not with voices. Tyan looked up at the stars. That is what I have been listening for, he said quietly. They did not talk much after that. They did not need to. When they went their separate ways, Tyan felt lighter, as if a small weight he had carried for a long time had shifted. That night, he sat by his fire again, looking at the stars. But this time, he did not feel as alone. He did not know what Maka would mean in his life. He did not know where this quiet connection would lead. But for the first time in a long while, he felt curious instead of empty. In the distance, the river continued to move, steady and calm, carrying its story forward. And so did he. The next morning, the camp woke slowly. The sky was soft and pale, like a gentle blanket over the land. Birds moved from tree to tree, calling to one another in small, happy sounds. Smoke rose from cooking fires as people prepared their first meals of the day. Tyan stood outside his lodge, holding a warm cup of tea. He watched the camp come to life. Usually, this moment felt heavy, like a long list of duties waiting for him. But today, his heart felt different. He thought about the river. He thought about Maka. He had not planned to see her again so soon, but his feet carried him toward the water without him thinking much about it. He told himself he was only going to check if the fishing nets were placed well, but when he reached the river, Maka was already there. She was kneeling in the grass, helping an older woman wash clay bowls. She worked slowly, carefully, making sure each bowl was clean before setting it in the sun to dry. The older woman smiled at her, grateful for the help. Tyan did not want to interrupt. He stood back and waited. When Maka noticed him, she stood and nodded. "Good morning," she said. "Good morning," Tyan replied. The older woman looked between them and smiled. "I will leave you two to the river," she said gently, carrying the bowls away. Maka and Tyan stood side by side, listening to the water move over the stones. "Did you sleep well?" Maka asked. "Better than usual." Maka did not ask why. She simply accepted the answer, and that made Tyen feel comfortable. They walked along the river together. Their steps were slow and matched the calm flow of the water. The sun rose higher, warming their faces and the ground beneath their feet. Tyen broke the silence. "People often speak to me like I am a mountain," he said. "Strong. Still, hard to move." Maka looked at him. "And do you feel like one?" Tyan thought for a moment. "Sometimes. But sometimes I feel more like this river," he said. "Always moving. Always carrying things no one else can see." Maka smiled softly. "Then maybe you are both." They reached a small patch of tall grass where the wind made gentle waves. Tyan stopped there. "I turned many people away," he said, "not because they were not good, but because they only saw what I carry, not who I am." Maka listened. She did not rush to answer. After a moment, she said, "It is hard to see the roots of a tree when you only look at its leaves." Tyan felt those words settle deep inside him. That day, Tyan asked Maka to help him with small tasks around the camp, not because he needed help, but because he wanted to walk and talk with her. They carried baskets of food to families who needed extra care. They sat with children and listened to their stories about dreams and games. They visited elders who shared memories from long ago. Through all of this, Maka moved quietly, but with purpose. She spoke kindly. She laughed gently. She never tried to stand in front of Tayan or behind him. She walked beside him. People began to notice. Some whispered, "The leader walks with the quiet woman now. Maybe she is different from the others." Maka heard the whispers, but she did not change. She did not walk closer to Tyan. She did not walk farther away. She stayed the same. That evening, Tyan invited Maka to sit near his fire. This was not something he often did. His fire was a place where leaders and elders usually spoke about serious matters. But tonight, he wanted it to be a place for simple words. They sat on smooth stones watching the flames move. Tyan spoke first. Tyan spoke first. When I was young, I believed being a leader meant never showing fear or doubt. Maka looked at the fire. And now? Maka nodded. The earth is strong, she said. But even the earth lets the rain touch it. Tyan smiled at that. He asked about her life. Maka told him about growing up near the hills. She talked about her mother teaching her how to listen to the wind, and her grandmother teaching her how to read the sky. She spoke about losing people she loved and finding comfort in helping others. Tyan listened carefully. He did not interrupt. He did not try to connect every story back to himself. He simply listened. Later, he shared his own stories, about the day he was chosen as leader, about the fear he felt that night, sitting alone under the stars, wondering if he was strong enough to carry the future of so many people. Maka did not try to fix his feelings. She did not tell him he should not feel that way. She only said, "It is brave to care so much." Those words stayed with him. The days that followed felt lighter for Tyan. Work still needed to be done. Decisions still needed to be made. But now he did not feel like he was walking alone. Maka never told him what to do. She never gave him advice unless he asked. But her presence was like a steady ground beneath his feet. One afternoon, a group of visitors came again. They brought gifts and kind words. One of them stepped forward, as others had before. Tyan felt the familiar moment rise inside him. The moment of choosing. He looked at Maka. She was standing with the children, helping them weave small flowers into a string. She was laughing softly as one of the children placed the string on her head like a crown. She did not look at him. She did not wait for anything. Tyan turned back to the visitor. He thanked them kindly. He spoke with respect, and once again he said no. But this time his heart felt steady instead of heavy. That night, Tyan and Maka walked under the stars. "The sky feels closer tonight," Maka said. Tyan nodded. "Maybe we are looking up more." They stopped on a small hill where they could see the camp below. The fires looked like tiny stars on the ground. Tyan took a slow breath. "I used to think I had to carry everything alone," he said. "The people, the past, the future." Maka looked at the camp. Half the dust caprices, even the strongest basket is woven from many strands, she said. Tyan turned to her. "Do you see yourself as one of those strands?" Maka met his eyes, calm and steady. "If you let me be." Tyan felt something open inside him, not like a door pushed wide, but like a window letting in fresh air. He did not take her hand. He did not make a promise, he only said, "I would like that." They stood there in silence, watching the stars move slowly across the sky. In that quiet moment, both of them felt the path ahead was not something to rush. It was something to walk, one step at a time. The morning air felt cool and gentle as the sun rose over the land. A thin layer of mist rested on the grass like a soft blanket. The camp moved slowly, as if it wanted to hold on to the quiet before the day fully began. Tyan stood outside his lodge, watching the sky change colors. For many days now, he had felt something new inside him. It was not loud or heavy. It was calm, like a steady fire that did not burn too high but never went out. He thought of Maka, their walks by the river, their quiet talks by the fire, the way she listened without trying to guide his words, the way she looked at the world as if every small thing had meaning. But with these warm thoughts came a new feeling as well: uncertainty. Tyan was a leader. Every step he took was seen. Every choice he made touched many lives. If he walked a path, others would follow. He wondered what it would mean if he chose to walk closer to Maka. Would the people understand? Would she want to carry that weight? Later that morning, the elders called for a gathering. They sat in a wide circle under a tall tree that had stood there longer than anyone could remember. Its branches reached out like open arms, offering shade and comfort. Tyan took his place among them. One of the elders spoke. Tyan talked. "The seasons are changing," she said. "We must decide where we will move when the cold winds come." The group talked about the rivers, the hills, the food, and the safety of the people. It was a long discussion, full of careful words and thoughtful pauses. Tyan listened closely. He shared his thoughts when needed. He felt the familiar weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. When the gathering ended, he walked away slowly. Maka was sitting nearby, helping a child fix a broken string on a small drum. She looked up and smiled when she saw him. "You look tired," she said gently. Taya nodded. "Some days the future feels very big." Maka handed the drum back to the child, who ran off happily. Then she stood and walked with Tyann toward the river. They did not speak for a while. Finally, Tyann said, "Do you ever feel like your path is already chosen for you?" Maka thought. "Sometimes," she said, "but I also believe we choose how we walk on that path." Tayan looked at her. "What if my path affects many people, not just me?" Maka stopped walking. She turned to face him. "Then your steps must be careful," she said, "but they still must be yours." Those words stayed with him. That afternoon, a young man from the camp approached Tyan. He spoke with respect, but also with worry. "Leader," he said, "some people are talking." Tyan nodded. "About me and Maka?" The young man looked surprised. "Yes," he said. "They wonder what it means." Tyan placed a hand on the young man's shoulder. "People will always wonder," he said kindly. "That is not something we can stop, but we can choose to walk with honesty." The young man nodded and walked away. Tyan felt both calm and heavy at the same time. That evening, Tyan invited Maka to walk beyond the river toward a small hill where wildflowers grew. The sky was painted with orange and pink as the sun began to rest. They sat on the grass, surrounded by soft colors and gentle wind. "I need to ask you something," Tyan said. Maka looked at him, patient and open. "When people look at me," he said, "they see a leader. When they look at you walking beside me, they may see more than just you. They may see a symbol, a story they want to tell." Maka listened closely. "I do not want to turn you into something you did not choose," he continued. Maka was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I have always known who you are to the people. I see it in the way they look at you. I hear it in the way they speak your name." She placed her hand on the ground. "But I also see who you are when it is just the sky and the river and the fire. That is the person I walk with." Tyan felt his chest tighten in a soft, warm way. I do not want to be a symbol, Maka added. I want to be a person. And I want to walk my own path, even if it crosses with yours. Tyan nodded slowly. That is what I hoped you would say. They sat in silence, watching the flowers move in the wind. Over the next few days, Tyan began to include Maka in more parts of camp life, not as someone who stood behind him, but as someone who stood among the people. She helped plan meals for families in need. She listened to elders and shared their stories with children. She walked with hunters and gatherers, learning their struggles and their hopes. The people began to see her not as the quiet woman near the leader, but as Maka, who cared deeply for everyone. Whispers slowly turned into soft smiles. One evening, an elder spoke to Tyan as they sat by the fire. You seem lighter these days, the elder said. Tyan smiled. I feel less alone. The elder nodded. A leader does not lose strength by sharing the path, she said. Sometimes they find more. That night, Tyan and Maka walked to the hill again. The stars were bright, like small eyes watching from above. Tyan spoke quietly. I do not know what the future holds, he said. I only know that I would like you to be part of it. Maka looked at him, her expression calm but warm. I cannot promise where my path will go, she said, but I can promise I will walk it honestly. Tyan reached out, not to take her hand, but to touch her shoulder gently. It was a simple gesture, full of meaning. That is all I ask, he said. They stood together, looking at the camp below. The fires glowed softly. The people moved like small shadows, living their lives, carrying their own stories. In that moment, Tyan understood something clearly. Leadership was not only about guiding others, it was also about allowing someone to walk beside you, not as a follower, not as a symbol, but as an equal heart. The wind moved through the grass, carrying their quiet promise into the night. The morning light came slowly, like a gentle hand waking the land. Soft gold colors touched the tops of the trees and the wide grass beyond the camp. The air felt fresh, filled with the quiet promise of a new day. Tyan stood outside his lodge, breathing in the cool wind. For the first time in many seasons, he did not feel the weight of the future pressing hard on his chest. He still felt responsible. He still cared deeply for his people. But now, that care felt shared, not carried alone. Across the camp, Maka was helping children gather small flowers. They laughed as they tried to make long chains, their hands clumsy but their smiles wide. Maka moved among them with calm joy, showing them how to tie the flowers gently so they would not break. Tyan watched for a moment. Then he walked toward her. Good morning, he said. Maka looked up and smiled. Good morning. They walked together toward the river, a path that had become familiar and meaningful to both of them. The water moved quietly, reflecting the sky like a soft mirror. Tyan spoke. I have been thinking about the people, he said. About how we move forward. About how we stay connected to each other even when life becomes busy and heavy. Maka nodded. The river stays connected because every small stream joins it, she said. Maybe people are the same. Tyan smiled. That is why I wanted to ask you something. Maka turned to face him. I want to bring the camp together, Tyan said. Not for a meeting, not for a decision, but for a moment of sharing. Stories, food, laughter. Something simple. Maka's eyes softened. I think the people would like that. That day, word spread across the camp. There would be a gathering by the river at sunset. People prepared food. Children practiced small songs. Elders chose stories they wanted to share. The air filled with quiet excitement. not loud or rushed, but warm and steady. As the sun began to rest in the sky, the people gathered near the water. Fires were lit in a wide circle, creating a soft glow that touched every face. Tyan stood among them, not above them. Maka stood beside him, not behind him. Tyan spoke to the people. Today we are not here to talk about where we will go or what we will do, he said. We are here to remember who we are. He gestured toward the river. This water has carried our stories for a long time. Tonight, let us share some of them with each other. One by one, people stepped forward. An elder told a story about growing up near the hills and learning to listen to the birds. A young girl shared how she helped her mother plant seeds for the first time. A hunter spoke about the joy of returning home and seeing his family waiting for him. Laughter and quiet tears mixed together. Maka shared a story too. She talked about her grandmother, who used to say that the earth listens to every footstep and that every step should be taken with care and kindness. The people nodded, feeling the truth in her words. Tyan felt a deep sense of peace. Later, when the stars filled the sky, music began. Simple drums and soft voices moved through the night. Children danced. Elders clapped slowly, keeping the rhythm. Tyan and Maka stood near the edge of the light, watching the people they both cared for. This is what I hoped for, Tyan said quietly. Not a place where I stand alone, but a place where we stand together. Maka looked at him. You helped create this, she said. Tyan shook his head. We did. In the days that followed, something changed in the camp. People greeted each other more often. Elders spent more time with the children. Small groups gathered by the river just to talk or sit in silence together. Tyan noticed it all. He noticed how leadership felt different now. It felt less like giving orders and more like walking beside others, listening and learning. Maka continued to move through the camp as she always had, helping, listening, caring. But now people also came to her with their worries and their hopes, not because she was close to Tyan, but because they trusted her heart. One afternoon, Tyan and Maka walked to the hill one last time before the season changed. The wind was cool, the sky was wide and clear. I have been thinking about the future again, Tyan said. Maka smiled. You always do. Tyan laughed softly. This time, it feels different. He looked at her. I want to walk this path with you, not just for a moment, not just for the people, but for ourselves. Maka did not answer right away. She looked at the land, the sky, the camp below. Then she said, I will walk with you, but I will always walk as myself. Tyan nodded. That is what I want. He reached out his hand. This time Maka took it. The gesture was simple, but it carried a deep promise. They stood there, hand in hand, not as a leader and a follower, not as symbols or stories, but as two people choosing to share their path. Below them, the camp glowed softly in the fading light. Fires burned gently. Voices carried on the wind. The river continued to move, steady and calm, carrying their story forward. And so did they. Rich tribal leader turned away all suitors until a quiet, brave woman approached. The sun rose slowly over the wide land, painting the sky with soft colors of gold and red. The morning wind moved gently across the grass, carrying the smell of earth and fresh water. In the center of the camp, a large lodge stood taller than the others. This was the home of the tribal leader. a man known not only for his wealth, but for his wisdom and calm spirit. His name was Tyann, which meant he who walks with thought. Tyann had everything many people dreamed of. His storehouses were full of food for the winter. His horses were strong and healthy. His people respected him, and other tribes spoke his name with honor. Elders trusted his decisions, and children looked at him as someone who could protect the future. But inside his heart, Tyann carried a quiet space that no one else could see. Many suitors came to the camp, hoping to stand beside him. Some came with bright clothes and shining jewelry made from shells and stones. Some came with beautiful songs, singing about love, strength, and the life they could build together. Others came with families who spoke proudly about their skills, their kindness, and their beauty. Each time, Tyann listened with patience and respect. He thanked them for their courage to step forward. He offered them food and warm tea, but in the end, he gently turned them away. The people of the camp whispered about it at night. "Why does he refuse everyone?" one woman asked as she stirred her cooking pot. "Maybe he wants someone perfect," another replied. "Maybe he does not want anyone at all," an elder said quietly. But none of them truly knew. Tyann did not turn people away because he thought he was better than them. He did not turn them away because he did not care. He turned them away because he felt something missing, something he could not explain in words.